I'll go ahead and build the real, sourced version, dramatized in tone but factually grounded. Let me pull the actual reporting first. Rory McIlroy stood at a podium inside Shinnecock Hills Golf Club on the Tuesday before the 2026 U.S. Open and delivered a line that would dominate golf headlines for the next several weeks. Asked about the PGA Tour's proposed two-track schedule, McIlroy said, "Track 2 is a glorified Corn Ferry event. That's what Track 2 is going to be." The comment came directly after McIlroy referenced the previous week's tournament. He said, "I guess, just recency, an event like last week, the Canadian Open, potentially going to one of these Track 2s. McIlroy has won the RBC Canadian Open twice, in 2019 and 2022, and 2026 marked the first year since 2018 that he had not played it." He continued, "So I don't think the Canadian Open should be one of those." He added a specific financial concern, stating, "I just think there's going to be certain events that might lose their stature if a sponsor doesn't pony up $30 million. So that's the tough thing." McIlroy did not stop at criticizing the structure of the proposed second tier. He went further, questioning the entire direction the tour had taken since the arrival of LIV Golf. He said, "It's funny, they've done all this work, and you start to realize that the way the tour was before LIV came along was actually pretty good. It was a pretty good structure, and everything sort of worked pretty well." He acknowledged that the changes to the tour's model, including higher purses and signature events, were introduced in reaction to LIV Golf luring top players with large contracts. At the time of his comments, LIV Golf was reported to be searching for new funding, with any future version of the league expected to operate with reduced prize money. McIlroy closed his remarks on the topic by noting his own limited involvement in the decision-making process. He said, "But, look, I'm not in those rooms." The timing of McIlroy's remarks placed them 1 week ahead of the PGA Tour's official unveiling of its new competitive model. Brian Rolapp, who became PGA Tour CEO in 2025, had already teased elements of a two-track system earlier in the year. Speaking ahead of the Players' Championship in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, Rolapp had compared the concept to English soccer, where clubs move between divisions based on annual performance. At that time, Rolapp said, "For our members, the message is simple. Play well, and you earn the opportunity to compete in our biggest events, and for more money." On June 23, 2026, at TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut, ahead of that week's Travelers' Championship, Rolapp formally announced the new structure. The tour's boards had approved the recommendation of a 9-person body called the Future Competition Committee. The new system will begin with the 2028 season and will split the tour into 2 divisions, the PGA Tour Championship Series and the PGA Tour Challenger Series. Rolapp noted at the announcement that both names were still working titles. The Championship Series will include 23 to 24 events run between February and August, encompassing the 4 major championships, the Players' Championship, team events such as the Ryder Cup and President's Cup, and a reimagined playoff format that will include match play. Every event in the Championship Series will carry a minimum purse of $20 million. Field sizes will average around 120 players, and the tour confirmed there will be no sponsor exemptions in this top tier. Rolapp stated that 10 of the expected 15 regular season Championship Series events had already been identified for 2028, though he did not disclose which tournaments they would be. The Challenger Series, the second tier, will include at least 20 events with minimum purses of $4 million each. Movement between the 2 tiers will be determined through a formalized system of promotion and relegation. The top 90 players on the Championship Series points list at the end of a season will retain their status for the following year. Players finishing outside the top 90 will be relegated to the Challenger Series. At least 20 players will be promoted from the Challenger Series to the Championship Series each season, with additional promotion criteria including players who win Challenger Series events multiple times, win any of the 4 majors, along with medical extensions, career milestones, and a newly created Last Chance Series. Rolapp described the changes in the tour's official statement, saying, "From day one, the focus of the future competition committee has been to build the best version of the PGA Tour, and to do so in a way that reflects the voice of our players and the expectations of our fans. He added, the result is a new competitive model grounded in meritocracy, with clearer pathways, higher stakes, and more consistency when the best players compete together. This model positions the PGA Tour for the future, and our focus now shifts to finalizing the details and preparing for implementation in 2028. The tour also confirmed a limited international series set for the fall season, intended for top-ranked players, which will include a partnership with the DP World Tour. This international series is expected to include events such as the Australian Open, which had already announced a partnership with the Tour and the European circuit earlier that month. Additionally, the Tour signaled it was reviewing its footprint in major American markets, including New York, Chicago, Boston, and San Francisco, with a stated goal of adding new tournaments in those cities. At the same press conference where he unveiled the new structure, Rolapp was directly asked about McIlroy's glorified Korn Ferry comment from the previous week. Rolapp responded, "Yeah, I had a chance to speak with Rory today. We talked a bit about it, and I think he's made some comments publicly since then." Rolapp then laid out his counterargument to McIlroy's characterization of the lower tier. He said, "But I think the best way to think about what we're doing here is that right now we have 47 events at the PGA Tour. We'll have 47 events going forward. That current model serves roughly 230 players. We'll serve that amount of players, the same." He continued, "We are just organized now in a more simple understanding competitively so our fans can understand it, our partners know what they're getting as far as value." Rolapp expanded on the distinction between the Challenger Series and the existing Korn Ferry Tour in a separate comment made the same day in Connecticut. He said, "If you look at the Challenger Series events, they'll be at venues you recognize. They'll be for healthy purses, which we announced today. They'll include a subset of the same 200 and change players that we have today. That is much different than what the Korn Ferry Tour is today." McIlroy's remarks and the broader restructuring plan triggered reactions from other players across the tour and beyond it. Nick Taylor, when asked what would happen if a player could not qualify to play in his own National Open under the new system, responded bluntly that such a situation would certainly sk. Veteran Eddie Pepperell raised concerns about the new structure's impact on the DP World Tour, which under the proposed global pathway system would be positioned as a third tier behind both the Championship Series and Challenger Series. Pepperell voiced this concern during an appearance on the Chipping Forecast podcast. Not all reactions were critical. Ben Griffin expressed optimism about the new system, stating, "I think it's going to be super competitive. It's going to be an incredible product, it's going to be easier to follow as a fan, which I think is good." Other senior players, including Xander Schauffele and Stuart Sink, were also reported to hold differing views on the changes, contributing to what was described as a divided response among the tour's membership. Some players speaking ahead of the John Deere Classic offered a more favorable framing of the promotion structure, characterizing it around the idea that strong performance would be directly rewarded with access to the top tier. The Future Competition Committee, whose recommendation formed the basis of the new structure, was chaired by 15-time major champion Tiger Woods. Woods commented on the plan, stating that it would build the strongest possible version of the PGA Tour. He also addressed the personal dimension of the process directly, saying, "This work was never about any one player or person." Following the official announcement, McIlroy's tone toward the new system shifted from his earlier criticism. He described the finalized format as a positive step. He specifically praised its merit-based structure, its stated focus on improving the experience for fans, and its effort to strengthen ties with international golf through the new collaboration with the DP World Tour. The restructuring represents a departure from the closed league model that has defined major American sports for decades. Promotion and relegation systems are common in global soccer leagues but have rarely been applied within a major professional sports property based in the United States. The move also arrived at a moment when the tour's existing schedule included 47 events serving roughly 230 players, a model Rolapp said would be preserved in overall scale even as its internal organization changed. Rolapp's ascension to the CEO role in 2025 had already been framed around modernizing the tour's competitive framework. He is also set to become the tour's next commissioner, succeeding Jay Monahan, a transition that was marked publicly when Monahan shook hands with Rolapp at TPC River Highlands on the day of the June announcement. The overhaul stands as Rolapp's most significant structural reform since taking over as chief executive. Under the new points-based promotion and relegation system, the stakes for players near the cutoff between tiers were raised considerably compared to the tour's previous card retention model. In the years leading up to this announcement, the tour operated under a system where the top 125 players in the FedEx Cup standing secured their cards for the following season, with the top 50 receiving exemptions into all events, including signature events. Players ranked between 126 and 200 were left to compete in weaker field tour events or attempt to regain their card through the Corn Ferry Tour. The new 2028 model replaces that framework with the formalized 2-series system and its 90-player retention threshold at the top tier. The scheduling details released in June left several specifics unresolved. Rolapp said the complete 2028 schedule, running from February through August, would be announced in the first quarter of 2027, meaning the tournaments not already confirmed for the championship series remained undecided at the time of the announcement. This uncertainty directly connected back to McIlroy's original concern about the fate of tournaments like the Canadian Open, an event that has been played since 1904 and remains the tour's only regular stop in Canada. The Cognizant Classic, among other events, was cited in coverage of the announcement as an example of a tournament that had already been affected by the difficult positioning within the existing signature event schedule, with several top players skipping it in recent years and its field strength diminishing compared to its standing in the mid-2010s. This example was used to illustrate the broader pressure facing tournaments that fall outside the guaranteed $20 million purse tier once the new system takes effect. McIlroy's initial comments, delivered less than a week before the tour's own announcement, placed him at the center of the public conversation surrounding the restructuring. His status as one of the tour's most prominent and outspoken players meant his remarks carried significant weight within the sports media coverage, prompting Rolapp to address them by name during his own press conference. McIlroy's follow-up description of the plan as a positive step came only after the full details, including purse minimums, promotion thresholds, and the international series with the DP World Tour, had been made public. The new competitive model's core mechanics remain fixed for the 2028 launch, a championship series of 23 to 24 events with $20 million minimum purses and no sponsor exemptions, a challenger series of at least 20 events with $4 million minimum purses, a 90-player retention line, a minimum of 20 promotions annually, and a chairing role for the plan's development held by Tiger Woods through the Future Competition Committee. The remaining unresolved element, the identity of every individual tournament within each series, is scheduled for release in the first quarter of 2027, a timeline that leaves events such as the Canadian Open and other historic stops on the calendar in an undetermined position heading into that announcement.